Welcome back to Saturday Agenda. I'm Kelmany Dukart. After 4 days and 15 grueling rounds of voting, we finally have a new Speaker of the House. California Republican Kevin McCarthy took the oath of office early Saturday morning, swiftly swearing in newly elected lawmakers and formally opening the 118th Congress. However, over the course of these voting rounds, we were witness to the GOP divided amongst themselves despite the majority that they now hold in the House. Joining us now to discuss this and more is constitutional law attorney and legal analyst Amir Benno and distinguished professor at Touro University, Thane Rosenbaum. This is the first time we have the Amir Thane legal panel together in 2023. So happy New Year to you both. Thanks for being here.
You know, this is
all right, gentlemen.
Kimberly, this is the A team. You know, we always come with you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Thane. So much to break down. Amir, I want to kick it off with you. Walk us through the concessions that McCarthy has made and legally how maybe he's bound to some of these promises.
Right. So significant concessions. Let's start with first splitting apart this big omnibus, the budget bill. There are going to be 12 separate bills now. They're going to give also 72 hours notice to lawmakers from the point in time when the text is released until the final vote. So there won't be this enormous 4,000-page bill with only 6 hours to read it before the vote takes place. They're going to take some votes on some pretty controversial issues, some having to do with the border, but also some non-controversial issues on term limits and a balanced budget. And then they're going to put some of this rump group on the Rules Committee, which is really, I think, a big concession from the Speaker. Because they get to determine what legislation goes to the floor, how it goes to the floor, when it goes to the floor, what the rules of debate are on it. And then there's going to be some spending restraints as well. That could present some problems because it may result in some cuts to defense spending, which may present some political problems for the Speaker. And then, of course, there's a sort of Damocles hanging over the Speaker's head, which is this motion to vacate the chair, which gives any one legislator essentially the ability to call a no confidence vote in Speaker McCarthy. And so that's going to hang over his head for the entirety of the time that he presides as a Speaker.
You know, that is one thing that I was certainly thinking about when it comes to the motion to vacate. And when you see people who have been so fiercely opposed to Kevin McCarthy, like Congressman Matt Gaetz, you wonder if he's just not going to try to pull that lever every chance he gets. Thane, I want to get your thoughts as well. And maybe the fact that if you think that this is going to help them effectively govern or whether it's going to bring more gridlock, what Amir just touched on with that 72 hours notice to lawmakers about going through a bill. I mean, I could see a potential for a lot of people to have time to think about what they don't like in a piece of legislation.
So, Kimberly, I think that Kevin McCarthy is going to experience the Joe Biden treatment. Remember, Biden ran as a moderate, has been governing as a progressive because he's beholden to the woke policies of the fringe elements within the Democratic Party that is interested in race, gender, sexuality, and identity. And what we now know is that the Freedom Caucus, albeit small, has demonstrated they have a lot of power. And they're very much interested in ending COVID mandates and border security and imposing fiscal discipline and budget responsibility. And so you're quite right. I mean, you're talking about a situation where McCarthy's leadership himself is very fragile. And he knows that he can be replaced with a single solitary vote. And he knows that the kinds of things that Congress used to do, as Amir correctly pointed out, these omnibus spending packages, right, where you have a legislation that has one name to it, and then you discover later that it has all these other things attached to it that have nothing to do with the name of the legislation. So obviously, that has some value to some members of the Republican Party. And so the ordinary way of doing business in Congress is going to have to change. Otherwise, there may be a replacement of the Speaker.
Yeah, great points. Amir, I wanted to ask you, what we heard from Kevin McCarthy last night was that his first priority was going to be repealing those 87,000 IRS agents. I mean, what do you make of a promise like that, given a divided Congress and a Democrat in the White House?
Well, I mean, ultimately, any legislation it might be dead on arrival when it gets to the Senate. What's interesting is one of the rules in terms of fiscal restraint is they're bringing back something called the Holman Rule, which allows any member to essentially zero out on appropriation bills. They can add an amendment or propose an amendment that would reduce the spending on any sort of federal government program or salary down to $1, effectively defunding it. So they're giving tools now to the legislators to at least propose amendments. And if they can build a coalition of support around it, they might be able to eliminate those kind of troublesome programs. But I'm not sure, I think it's a great thing to try to eliminate the funding for those 87,000 IRS agents. I just hope that it gets traction when it goes to the upper chamber.
All right, Amir Benno, Thane Rosenbaum, so much more to break down. We'll break it down next week. I also wanted to ask you guys another time about this 1970 Church Select Committee appointed by the Speaker that's going to investigate the FBI and DOJ. We'll look forward to breaking that down. Appreciate you both. Thanks.
Same here, Kelmany.
Coming up, President Biden says he's making a stop at our southern border tomorrow. It's his first visit to the border. But is it too late? Stay with us.